The smoke rose like a dark ribbon into the night sky. It smelled sweet and spicy, like pepper and onions and hot oil. It was the kind of smell that makes your stomach sing even when you are full. The grill hissed and popped. The knife flashed. The man behind the table smiled at the crowd and said, "Extra pepper. Free today." People were laughing. People were chewing. The man kept turning the sticks over the fire. The meat was brown and shining. He brushed it with a thick red sauce and the sauce sizzled. He had a small bowl of sliced onions, tomatoes, and green pepper. He tossed them together and wrapped the meat in paper for each person, fast and smooth, like a magician. I stood in the dark, just outside the light of the yellow bulb that hung above his head. I stood there because I had seen something fall from the white bucket behind the table. It was small and silver and it caught the light for only a moment before it rolled under the stool. It was a bracelet. Not just any bracelet. It had little letter beads on it. Tiara. Terra. My friend. The man bent down to pick up the bracelet, but I was faster. I slid my foot forward and blocked it with my shoe. I felt the cold, round beads press against the side of my sandal. He stood again, wiped his hands on his apron, and kept cutting. His knife made a steady, happy sound against the wooden board. Tap tap. Tap tap. Slice. He hummed a tune. He gave a little boy an extra piece for free. "Tell your mother," he said, "I made it soft today." My mouth felt dry. My hands shook. Why would Terra's bracelet be here, under his stool, next to that white bucket where he kept the meat? I looked at the bucket. The lid was open a little. A corner of a plastic bag peeped out. Red juice dripped down the side. The drip made a tiny trail that ran along the floor to the gutter. A fly landed on it and rubbed its legs together like it was happy. The man turned. His eyes slid across the crowd and then over the place where I stood. I pressed myself into the shadow of the mango tree. He did not see me. He looked back at the grill, lifted a fresh skewer from the bucket, and set it on the fire. The new meat looked pale and strange before the sauce touched it. It didn't look like goat. It didn't look like beef. It looked soft. Too soft. My head began to pound. My ears filled with my own heartbeat. I bent and picked up the bracelet. The beads felt warm from the heat of the grill. Tiara. It was hers. She used to shake it and make the beads click when she laughed. The man changed the song he was humming. He stepped back, reached behind the curtain at the back of his store, and pulled out a second bag. Something small fell out with a sharp clink. A metal button. A shiny school uniform button. It rolled until it kissed my toes. I stared at the grill. I stared at the bucket. I stared at his hands. He sold meat. But what kind? Then he lifted the knife again, and for just a breath, just the size of a blink, I saw a line on the edge of the piece he was cutting. A thin, pale line like a healed cut. Like a scar. Not on the surface of a cow. Not on the leg of a goat. The crowd cheered because he had done his trick again, the one where he tossed a skewer and caught it behind his back. He laughed with them, but the laugh didn't reach his eyes. He brushed the sauce on the meat with a neat, careful hand, and the smell grew louder, sweeter, stronger. My stomach twisted. He wrapped a portion. He looked up. And he looked straight at me. "I see you," he said softly, still smiling. "Come. Taste. It is special tonight." I did not move. My fingers squeezed Terra's bracelet so tight the edges dug into my palm. "Come," he said again. He lifted a fresh stick and held it out like a gift. "Tell your mother I made it soft. Tell her 'tis the best you will ever eat." I took one step into the light. The bracelet felt heavy. The smell felt wrong. "Come," he whispered, and then he did something that made my heart stop for a moment. He slid his hand into his apron pocket and pulled out a small gold ring. He turned it in his fingers, looked at it like it was a coin, and then dropped it into a tin beside the salt. The ring clinked. My mouth opened, but no sound came. The knife flashed again. The night held its breath. And just before I could speak, before I could run, before I could even think, a phone inside the back room began to ring. It wasn't a normal ringtone. It was a song Tara loved. A silly song about stars. The man's smile flickered. He turned his head toward the curtain. "Stay," he told me, still soft, like I was a cat he didn't want to scare. "Stay and taste." He walked into the back room. I looked at the crowd. They were still laughing. They didn't see the bracelet in my fist. They didn't hear the song the way I heard it. They didn't see the pale line on the meat. I looked back at the bucket. I took a breath. And then the story pulled me backward, to when everything smelled normal, to when the street was still loud with safe laughter, to when we all believed this man's hands were only kind. 2 weeks earlier, Okoli Street was like a bright ribbon in the evening. Children raced with sticks. Mothers bargained for sweet oranges and fresh pepper. The tall yellow bulb over the Suya stand glowed like a moon that belonged to us alone. We called the man at the stand Uncle K. He was not really our uncle, but he told jokes like one. He wore a red cap, a dark apron, and shoes that made no sound on the floor. He called every child by name. If he didn't know your name, he asked once and never forgot. He could look at a customer and say, "Madam Sword, extra pepper, no onions," or "Brother Chike, more salt today." He remembered the little things that make people smile. "Chima," he would call when he saw me. "You again. You will finish all my meat today." I would laugh and shake my head. "Only small, uncle. Small." He would grin. "Your small is bigger than my own big." Then he would wink at my mother and wrap us a part that seemed larger than we paid for. People loved him for that. He gave a little extra. He gave a little kindness. He made the night soft. Tara loved the stand more than I did. She was the kind of girl who turned every place into a stage and every meal into a party. We were both 12, almost 13. She wore her hair in 2 big puffs and a thin silver bracelet with her name on it. She liked to rest her elbows on the counter and tell stories while Uncle K sliced. He would laugh and shake his head and say, "This your mouth. It will get you into trouble." She would reply, "Good trouble, uncle," and make the beads on her bracelet click-clack. On the day the smell changed, the sun was still bright when Tara came running down the street toward me. "Chima," she shouted. "News." "What news?" I asked. "My mom said not to buy from the stand tonight," she whispered. "She said something is wrong." "Wrong how?" "She said she heard a woman at the market say the meat is not normal. She said the woman's cousin saw strange things at night near the stand." I laughed, but not because I found it funny. I laughed because I didn't want fear to be true. "Which woman? Which cousin?" I asked. "People say things." Tara made her bracelet click-clack. "I know. But my mom's face was serious. She told me to come straight home from school. No stopping. Will you listen?" She looked at the Suya stand. The smoke curled up like a finger calling us closer. The sauce made a soft pop-pop sound. Uncle K wiped the board clean. He looked up and saw us. He smiled and lifted a hand. Tara's feet slowed. "Maybe only small," she said. "You said your mom." "Only small," she said again, and she laughed the way she always laughed when she wanted to do what she wanted anyway. "Good trouble." We walked closer. A stray dog was sleeping beside the gutter. It opened one eye as we passed and then put its head back down. The closer we got, the better the smell grew. It wrapped around us like a warm scarf. I forgot the market woman. I forgot the warning. My stomach remembered happy nights and noisy jokes and the pleasure of soft meat with crushed pepper. "Chima." Uncle K sang. "Tara. My stars. Where have you been? I have not seen you in 2 days." "My mom said we should stay home," Tara said. "Oh." His smile dipped for a second. "Sickness." Not sickness, she said. Just stay home. Home is good, he said, and his smile came back. But food is home too. What will you eat? Only small, I said. He laughed. You're small again. He went to the bucket, lifted a lid, and took out a skewer. He brushed it with sauce, laid it on the grill, and the hiss was like a happy snake. The smoke bent toward us. Tara forgot her warning. She leaned on the counter and started a story about a teacher who chased a goat out of the classroom that morning. We laughed. Uncle K laughed. For a moment everything was light. Then the dog beside the gutter woke up and began to growl. We turned. The dog was not looking at us. It was looking at the back of the store, where a thin curtain hung like a soft wall. The dog's face stood up. It growled again, low and angry, and then it moved toward the curtain and sniffed, 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 as if the smell behind there was loud and wrong. Aha, Uncle K said, too quickly. He threw a bone to the other side. Go, go. The dog looked at the bone but did not run to it. It kept sniffing at the curtain. The smile on Uncle's face stayed, but his eyes went cold for a second, like water in a well when the wind stops. He lifted the skewer from the fire and cut it into neat, small pieces, fast. Tap tap. Slice. Tap tap. Here, he said, all warmed again, and pushed the paper into Tara's hands. Taste. Tell your mother it is good. Tell her I will bring some to the house myself if she wants. Tara looked at the meat. She looked at the dog. She looked at me. Then she took a bite. Soft, she said, surprised. Very soft. Good, Uncle K said. We ate. We paid. We walked away with the wrapper still warm in our hands. The dog stayed by the curtain, sniffing and growling, until Uncle threw a bucket of water toward it and shouted. Then it ran off with a sharp yelp. That night, my mother told me, no more buying there after sunset. Hear me. Why? I asked. Because I said so. I wanted to ask again, but her voice had that hard stone in it. I nodded. 2 days later, a poster went up on the wall beside the tailor's shop. A girl's face smiled from the paper. Her name was Zainab. She was 14. She had been missing since Friday evening. Then another poster came. A boy. Then a third. The pictures looked like our faces, like our friends, like people who eat the same food and run the same streets and tell the same jokes. The street got quieter after sunset. The women still bargained, but softer. The men still laughed, but it didn't reach the sky the way it used to. We stopped going to the stand every day. We passed by once in a while, hungry and careful. The smoke still rose. The crowd was still there, just a little smaller. Uncle K still smiled and called people by name. He started giving more free pieces than before, as if he could buy back trust with sweetness. A week later, I met Auntie Titi. She wore a yellow scarf and carried a small black notebook. She spoke to everyone with a kind voice. I'm a journalist, she said when she stopped me. I write stories to help people know the truth. Have you noticed anything strange? Strange how? I asked. Strange smells. Strange sounds. Strange gifts, she said, and her eyes flicked toward the Suya stand. I swallowed. Sometimes the dog growls there, I said. And the meat is very soft. She wrote that down. What's your name? Chima. She tore a small card from her notebook and pressed it into my hand. If you see anything, call me, she said. If you hear anything, tell me. Do not be brave. Be wise. I nodded, but my heart squeezed. Wise and brave sometimes look the same when the night is heavy. 3 evenings after I met her, Tara didn't come to school. I waited on the steps until the sun touched the roof. Then I ran to her house. Her mother stood in the doorway with eyes that looked like they had cried all day. She will come, her mother said, but her voice was thin. The bracelet was not on her wrist. The bracelet was on her mother's table, broken, a few letters missing. She will come, her mother said again, even softer. We looked for her. We waited. The yellow bulb above the Suya stand kept glowing every night like a small, stubborn moon. The smoke kept rising. The knife kept tapping the board, steady as a clock. And then came the night of the hook, the night the smell changed. I told my mother I would buy bread and come back. I did buy bread. But my feet did not take me home. They took me to the stand. They took me to the mango tree near the corner where the shadows are thick. They took me to the yellow light and the red sauce and the laughter that sounded smaller now. I stood in the dark and watched. I saw the bracelet roll. I felt the beads press into my palm. I saw the school uniform button shine and kiss my toes. I heard Tara's favorite song ring from the back. And when Uncle walked behind the curtain, I moved. My legs were shaking, but I moved like smoke, quiet and thin. I slipped behind the table and touched the lid of the white bucket. My hand trembled so hard I thought the lid would rattle and give me away. Still, I lifted it, just a little, just enough to see. I wish I could say I saw nothing. I wish I could say it was all a bad story I told myself to make fear feel real. But I saw. Not everything. Not a big thing. Just enough. A piece with skin too smooth for any animal we were meant to eat. A small, pale line like a healed cut. A corner of a blue cloth stuck under the bag's tie, the same shade as our school uniform. The smell hit me like a slap. My chest forgot how to breathe. I dropped the lid. The sound was small, but it felt loud. The crowd kept laughing. The knife kept tapping. The yellow bulb kept buzzing. But behind the curtain, the song stopped. The room went quiet. Then I did a foolish thing. I took out my phone. My hands were wet. I don't know if it was sweat or fear. I pointed the camera at the bucket. I pressed the button. The light flashed. It was a tiny, silly flash, the kind that should not matter in a loud, hot place. But it mattered. It mattered because the flash touched the metal tin and made the ring inside it sparkle for a second. It mattered because the flash touched the edge of the curtain and drew a thin line of light around it. It mattered because as the light faded, I heard a soft footstep behind me. A hand touched the back of my neck. Warm. Steady. I went cold all over. Chima, a voice said, kind and close, the same voice that had always called me by name, the same voice that gave extra pepper and made the night feel soft. What did you see? I did not turn. I did not breathe. The hand did not move. Come, the voice said, almost a whisper. Taste. Tell your mother I made it soft. I swallowed. My throat clicked. My phone slipped in my sweaty hand. It almost fell. The hand on my neck moved to my shoulder and squeezed, gentle like a friend might do. Put the lid back, the voice said. Let us not make a mess. I pressed the lid down. My fingers left a smear on the white plastic. I saw that my hand was shaking so badly, the smear looked like a river on a map. Good, he said. Now come. I have something special for you. He lifted the flap of the curtain with his other hand. I could see the edge of a table inside. I could see a chair. I could see a shadow that did not belong to just one person. Come, he said again, and his smile was back in his voice. I don't like to keep secrets with my friends. I took a step. My mind shouted, run. My legs felt like wood. The crowd laughed at a joke I didn't hear. Somewhere, a car horn sang. A cat knocked a tin and it clanged against the ground. I took another step. The curtain breathed. Then, from the far end of the street, someone shouted my name. Chima. It was Auntie Titi's voice. The hand on my shoulder tightened, not hard, but tight enough to say, don't move. Chima, she called again, closer now. Where are you? The hand loosened. The curtain fell still. The voice behind me changed. It grew soft and slow, like honey that has been left in the sun too long. Answer her, he said. Tell her you are buying bread. My throat worked. I'm buying bread. I shouted, louder than I meant to. The stall went quiet for a second, as if the sound pushed the air away. Then people started talking again. Auntie Titi's steps came closer. She was running. The hand on my shoulder slipped away. Go, the voice said, cheerful again, bright like a bell in the morning. Come back later. I will keep something soft for you. My feet moved on their own. I stepped out from behind the table. The open street felt like a river that could carry me home. I turned. Uncle K stood there with the knife in one hand and a skewer in the other. He looked the same as always. His apron was clean. His cap was straight. His smile was kind. Only his eyes were different. They were calm and deep and told me nothing. Chima. Auntie Titi ran up, breathing hard. I've been calling you. I tried to speak, but the words were stuck. Madam, Uncle said warmly. Your son is safe. He was just buying bread. I heard, she said, frowning, puzzled, eyes jumping from me to him and back. Uncle lifted the skewer like a gift. Take. On the house, he said. Tell your mother I made it soft. Auntie Titi stared at the meat. She stared at me. She did not take it. Uncle's smile did not bend. It did not crack. It stayed there like a mask that fit very well. And then the yellow bulb above us flickered once, twice, 3 times, and went out, plunging the stand, the street, the crowd, the curtain, and all the secrets behind it into a thick, hungry darkness. I heard the knife tap the board once in the dark. I heard Uncle's breath. I heard the soft scrape of a lock turning. Click. The bulb above the stand died with a hiss, and suddenly everything was swallowed by the night. People gasped. Some laughed nervously, thinking it was only a small power problem. The air smelled of smoke and pepper, but beneath it was something heavier, something rotten that the light had been hiding. I couldn't see Uncle's face anymore, but I could hear him. His breath was steady. Too steady. Then came the scrape of his knife against the wooden board, slow, like he was cutting even though no one could see what he was doing. Don't be afraid, his voice floated out of the dark. Calm. Gentle. The kind of voice that should comfort you but instead makes your blood turn cold. The light will return. It always does. But it didn't. The crowd shifted, restless. A few people pulled out their phones to use as torches. Thin beams of light danced around, landing on faces, hands, wrappers of suya. The smoke from the grill rose like a ghost. Chima. Auntie Titi's hand grabbed mine. Her palm was damp, but her grip was strong. We have to go. My legs wanted to move, but they felt nailed to the ground. Something in the dark was holding me, not a hand, not a rope, but fear itself. Then I heard a sound that pulled me free. From behind the curtain came a soft knock. Not like a door. More like fingers tapping wood from inside a box. Tap, 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 slow, begging taps. Uncle, someone from the crowd called nervously. What is that sound? Silence. Then Uncle's laugh. Low. Dry. Wrong. Just the wind, he said. Don't fear the wind. But it wasn't the wind. I knew that. And I think he knew I knew. The bracelet in my pocket burned against my skin. Terror. My throat felt like it had swallowed a stone. Suddenly, flash. Someone's phone light cut across the store. It landed on the tin where the gold ring lay. It shone for just a second before the owner of the phone shifted it away. But I had seen it. The ring was not alone. Beside it were other little things, earrings, buttons, a pink hair clip. Things that belonged to people, not animals. Auntie Titi pulled harder at my hand. We are leaving. Now. We pushed through the crowd. The smoke clung to us, thick and sticky, like it wanted to keep us there. The farther we got from the stand, the more my legs remembered how to move. My breath came fast, sharp, like I had been underwater too long. Chima, she said as we turned the corner, what did you see? I opened my mouth, but before the words could come, a scream tore through the night. It came from behind us, from the stand. We froze. The scream was high and wild, like someone had been cut open, not on the skin, but in the soul. People shouted. Feet scattered. Someone cried, blood. Blood in the Suya. My stomach twisted. My ears rang. My heart wanted to leap out of my chest. Run. Auntie Titi shouted. We ran. Our sandals slapped the ground. The night swallowed us. Behind us, chaos grew. Shouts. More screams. The smell of pepper and fire and something worse. We didn't stop until we reached the empty road near the church. My chest burned. My knees wobbled. Auntie Titi leaned close, her face shining with sweat. Tell me everything, she said, her voice sharp now, urgent. What was in that bucket? What did you see? I swallowed hard. My lips trembled. The words came out broken. Not goat. Not cow. Her eyes widened. Then what? I opened my fist. The bracelet lay there, silver beads dull in the moonlight. Tiara. Her hand flew to her mouth. She whispered like a prayer, oh my God. Before I could say more, we heard it again, tap, 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 from somewhere in the shadows. We turned. There was no bucket here. No stand. No crowd. Only the dark road and the old church wall. But the sound was clear. Tap, 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 like someone trapped, begging to be let out. And then, from behind the church wall, a figure stepped forward. The yellow glow of a match lit his face for only a second. It was Uncle K. And he was smiling. The match flickered, and for a heartbeat, I saw his face. The same face that had laughed with us. The same face that had called us by name. But in the light of that tiny flame, his smile was not kind. It was hungry. He let the match burn down until it stung his fingers. He didn't flinch. He simply dropped it to the ground, crushed it under his shoe, and said softly, why run, Chima? Did I not tell you I would keep something soft for you? The night swallowed us again. Auntie Titi grabbed my wrist. Run, she hissed. But before we could move, another sound filled the road, boots. Heavy boots. Several of them, pounding the dirt. From the corner of the street, 3 men appeared, each one carrying long sticks. Their faces were hard, shadows hiding their eyes. Uncle K raised a hand. No need, he said to them. They are children. Children talk, one of the men replied, his voice like gravel. And talking spreads. My throat went dry. My legs locked. Auntie Titi stepped forward, trying to sound brave. I am a journalist. If you touch this boy, the whole city will know before dawn. The men laughed. Not all at once, but one after the other, like wolves taking turns to growl. Who will believe you, one said. People eat what they are given, another added. They don't ask questions, the third finished. The smell of suya smoke was still on their clothes. It made me want to gag. Uncle K took a step closer. The night was quiet now, except for the crickets. Even the dogs were silent. His voice was low, careful, as though he was telling me a secret. You think you saw something. You think you know? But knowing is dangerous, Chima. Look at your friend Tara. She knew too much. And now, he stopped. His eyes gleamed in the faint light from a distant house. Now she belongs to me. The bracelet in my hand felt like it was burning through my skin. My knees nearly gave out. No, I whispered. No. Chima. Auntie Titi yanked my arm. Don't listen to him. The men with sticks began to spread out, circling us. Their boots scraped the dirt. My heart hammered. There was no way out. Then suddenly, bang! A door slammed open on the church wall behind us. A beam of torchlight cut through the dark. A voice shouted, "Who is there?" The men froze. It was the night guard of the church. An old man, but his torch was bright, and in his other hand was a long machete. He stepped into the road, swinging the light across our faces, then onto Uncle K and his men. "What is happening here?" the guard demanded. For the first time, Uncle's smile slipped. Just for a second. He glanced at the men, then back at us. "Nothing," he said smoothly. "Only children misbehaving. I was helping them home." The guard raised his machete. "Not tonight. Go." The men looked to Uncle. He gave the smallest nod. And just like that, they melted back into the shadows, their boots fading until the night swallowed them. But before he followed, Uncle leaned close enough for only me to hear. His breath was hot on my ear. "You cannot hide forever," he whispered. "Every street eats. Every city eats. And someone must feed them." Then he was gone. The torchlight stayed on my face. The guard's voice broke through the pounding in my head. "Boy. Girl. What are you doing out here?" Auntie Titi stepped forward quickly. "Please, sir. We need a safe place. Just for the night." The guard looked at us, at the way I trembled, at the way her eyes burned with fear. Then he nodded slowly. "Come inside." We stepped through the heavy wooden door of the church compound. The smell of smoke faded. The night closed behind us. But as I crossed the threshold, I felt something cold and wet in my pocket. I reached in. My fingers came out sticky. Blood. Not mine. And the bracelet was gone. The church compound was silent except for the faint buzz of crickets. The wooden doors closed behind us with a heavy thud. I leaned against the wall, gasping for breath, my hands still shaking. The sticky wetness on my palm made my stomach twist. When I looked again, the bracelet was back. But it wasn't the same. The silver beads were stained dark, dripping onto my fingers. The letters TI glistened with fresh blood that hadn't been there before. I froze. "Chima." Auntie Titi's voice cut into my panic. She grabbed my wrist. "What's that on your hand?" I couldn't speak. I just held up the bracelet. Her eyes widened, and for the first time that night, she looked truly afraid, afraid in a way even her reporter's courage couldn't cover. "That's impossible," she whispered. "You had it earlier. It was clean." How did it?" The church guard stepped closer, torchlight bouncing across the beads. His old, wrinkled face hardened. "This is not a safe thing you carry," he said slowly. "Not at all." Before I could answer, a sound echoed through the compound. Tap, tap, tap. It was faint at first, like fingers against wood. But it grew louder, faster, echoing against the church walls. Tap, 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 as if it came from all sides at once. The guard raised his machete, his eyes narrowing. "Stay here," he ordered. "Do not move." He moved toward the far corner, torch sweeping across the stone wall. Nothing. Just shadows. Then the sound came from behind us. Tap, 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 louder now, closer, almost right at the door. I gripped Auntie Titi's hand, my heartbeat crashing in my ears. "He's here," I whispered. He followed us. She shook her head quickly. "No. He wouldn't risk coming inside the church." But before her words could even settle, the old wooden door behind us creaked. Slowly. Painfully. Like someone was pushing against it from the outside. The guard swung around, machete high. "Who is there?" he barked. The door inched open. Cold night air swept in. And then, silence. No footsteps. No voices. Nothing. The guard stepped forward, torch raised. He leaned into the gap. Who? Something slammed against the wood with a force so loud it shook the ground. The door banged shut in his face, rattling the bolts. He staggered back, torch flickering wildly. On the other side, a voice spoke. Calm. Smooth. Familiar. Chima, open the door. I saved you some meat. It was Uncle K. My knees gave way. I dropped to the floor, the bloody bracelet clattering against the stone. Auntie Titi crouched beside me, pulling me close. Her whisper was fierce, like fire. We can't stay here. He knows where we are. The guard, still pale, tried to lock the door with trembling hands. But before he could secure the bolt, another knock shook it. Not polite. Not gentle. A pounding so hard the wood splintered. Boom. 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 The voice came again, louder this time, filled with laughter. Open, my star. Don't hide. Everyone must eat. The bracelet on the floor twitched. The beads moved, sliding one by one until the name rearranged itself. Not T-A-R-A anymore. But Yeti. My stomach lurched. The torch slipped from the guard's hand. The light rolled across the floor, stretching shadows tall and twisted against the church walls. The pounding stopped. Silence fell heavy. Then, a whisper, right at my ear, even though the door was still shut. Chima. Your turn. The whisper in my ear faded, but its echo clung to my skin like smoke. My chest rose and fell fast, and I could hear the guard muttering prayers under his breath as he tried again to bolt the heavy wooden door. Your turn, Uncle K had said. But why me? Why Tara? Why the missing children whose posters now covered every wall in town? I picked up the bracelet again. The letter still spelled Yeti. My hand shook as I stared at it, trying to understand if it was my mind playing tricks or if the thing was truly alive. Auntie Titi knelt beside me, her voice low and firm. Listen to me, Chima. Men like him don't just kill for hunger. He is choosing. He has a reason. We need to know why, before we run into his hands blind. The guard turned, torchlight trembling in his wrinkled hand. This man you speak of, he said, he is not new here. Years ago, I heard stories. When I was younger, people whispered about a boy who worked in the abattoir, a boy who never flinched when blood splashed on his face. They said he used to lick the knife. We laughed then. But I see now it was no joke. A chill ran down my back. You mean, that was him? The old man nodded slowly. K. Yes. That was his name even then. Auntie Titi's eyes flashed. But why children? Why girls like Tara? The guard hesitated, then leaned closer, voice barely a whisper. Because of the meat. We froze. He continued, each word heavy. Goat, cow, ram, people chew and know the difference. But children. Soft. Tender. Sweet. That man learned long ago that people would not question if the meat melted in their mouths. He sells it as kindness, as a gift. But it is a mask. He takes those who will not be missed quickly. Street children. Poor girls. Then, when he grows bolder, his eyes landed on me, he takes from the families who trust him. My stomach churned. The soft taste Tara had praised. The free portions he gave so happily. The reason people kept coming back even after rumors. It wasn't generosity. It was practice. He marks them, the guard added. I've seen him look at people with that measuring stare. Like a butcher choosing a cut. If he gave your friend the bracelet, it was not kindness. It was a promise. My breath caught. But Tara already had the bracelet. It was hers. Auntie Titi frowned. What if he didn't give it to her? What if he takes something from each victim? A token. A proof. That's why you found it by his bucket. The guard's torch flickered, as if agreeing. Yes. He keeps them. Rings. buttons. Hair clips. Not trophies, no. Ingredients. I felt my throat tighten. Ingredients. He looked at me with eyes too old and too tired for lies. The hungry ones. The spirits who eat with him. The words sank into me like ice water. What spirits? Auntie Titi demanded. The guard's voice dropped lower still. This is not just a man's hunger. People vanish, yes, but more than one man's belly could swallow so many. No, he feeds something else. They whisper in the night. They ask for soft flesh. And he listens. That is why he is never caught. That is why he always smiles. Because he is not cooking alone. As if to prove his words, the tapping began again. Not at the door this time, but all around us, inside the church walls. Tap, 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 like long nails scratching wood. I clutched the bloody bracelet to my chest. My head spun. Was Tara still alive? Or had she been fed to this? Hungry ones. Auntie Titi pulled me up. Her face was pale but fierce. Then we must stop him. We must end this before he chooses again. The guard shook his head, fear in his eyes. Child, you don't end a man who is not alone. You run. You hide. Boom. The door rattled under a heavy blow. The boat shivered. Boom. The second strike made dust fall from the ceiling. And then, his voice again, laughing low. Chima, don't listen to their lies. I don't kill. I choose. And tonight, I have chosen you. The pounding on the church door shook the very floor beneath us. Boom. 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 Each strike louder than the last, each one a promise. The guard braced his back against the door, machete raised, but his arms trembled with age. The boat rattled like it was ready to snap. Hold it. Auntie Titi shouted, rushing forward. She pressed her shoulder against the wood too, face tight with fear. Chima, help us. I didn't move. My legs refused. My ears were filled with Uncle's voice, slithering through the cracks. Open, Chima. Do not be afraid. It is only food. Food must always be eaten. The words were soft, but they felt sharp. Like the knife he used, slicing meat thin and smooth. Boom. The boat screeched. A split opened in the wood. Through it, I saw one eye staring in, a dark, calm eye that glowed faintly in the torchlight. My breath stopped. He was smiling with his eye. Why fight me? He murmured. You already tasted. Didn't you like it? Didn't you say it was soft? The memory of Tara chewing that piece of suya hit me like a slap. Her laugh. Her words. Very soft. My stomach turned, by rising. No. I shouted, pressing my palms over my ears. No. You're lying. His laugh slipped through the crack, deep and cold. Am I? The guard roared and shoved the door closed again, pushing with the last strength in his arms. Boy. Do not listen, he barked. His voice cracked like thunder. He is more than man, he is mouth, he is hunger. Don't give him your ears. But the whispers kept coming. From the crack. From the floor. From the bloody bracelet in my fist. Eat. 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 Boom. The boat bent. The door splintered. The air grew heavy, thick with the smell of roasted meat, except now it wasn't sweet. It was foul, sour, crawling into my nose until I gagged. Auntie Titi's voice trembled but stayed steady. We can't hold him forever. God, is there another way out? The old man's eyes darted toward the altar. There is a trap door. Leads to the catacombs beneath. But. Show us, she snapped. He hesitated. The catacombs are not safe. Old bones, old prayers, and other things. Boom. The crack in the door widened. A long, pale hand slipped through, fingers stretching, nails long and blackened like burnt wood. They twitched, reaching for me. Now! Auntie Titi screamed. The guard dropped his machete to hook the boat back in place, buying seconds. Then he grabbed his torch and waved us toward the altar. Move. I ran, my sandals slapping stone, the bloody bracelet burning in my hand. Behind us, the pounding grew frantic, wild. Boom. Crack. The wood screamed as it tore. We reached the altar. The guard kicked aside a loose tire. Beneath it, a small square of wood, dusty, rotting. He lifted it with a grunt, and the smell of damp earth and old graves rushed out. A hole yawned, swallowing the torchlight. Go, the guard shouted. Auntie Titi pushed me forward. I slid down into the hole, scraping my knees on stone steps. The darkness was thick, pressing against my skin. She followed, then the guard lowered himself after us, closing the trap door above just as the church door exploded with a roar of splintering wood. The last thing I saw before it shut was his hand, slender, pale, fingers twitching with hunger, reaching into the church like a spider entering its web. The door thudded closed. We were buried in the catacombs. It was silent for a moment, except for our breathing. The air smelled of dust, of bones, of forgotten prayers. Then, tap, tap, tap. Not from above. From below. The stones beneath our feet shivered. Run, the guard whispered hoarsely. He is not the only one who feeds here. The trapdoor sailed above us with a hollow thud. Darkness swallowed everything. The air was heavy, thick with the smell of dust, damp stones, and something odor, something that made my skin crawl. The guard lifted his torch, its weak flame cutting a trembling path ahead. Stone steps led deeper, into a tunnel lined with rough walls. Bones jutted out between the cracks, fingers, ribs, skulls half buried in the mortar. I stumbled after Auntie Titi, clutching her arm so tight my knuckles turned white. Whose bones are these? I whispered. The guard's face was grim. Matters. The dead of long ago. But not all of them rest. His words barely left his mouth when it began again. Tap, tap, tap. Not behind us. Not above us. But everywhere. The walls. The ceiling. The stones under our feet. Like dozens of fingers scratching, knocking, asking to be let out. I pressed my hands to my ears, but the sound slipped through, crawling into my skull. Auntie Titi kept moving, her jaw tight. Ignore it. Just move. But I couldn't. The tapping grew faster, louder. It wasn't random. It was a rhythm. A chant. Eat. 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 The bracelet in my fist trembled. I opened my hand, and the letters had changed again. Not terror. Not it. Now it spelled meat. My stomach twisted. I dropped it. The silver clattered on the stones, echoing like a scream. The torchlight flickered, and for the briefest second, I saw something move in the darkness ahead. A figure. Small. Thin. Wearing a torn school uniform. Terror. I croaked. The girl turned her head. Her eyes glowed pale in the dark. Her mouth opened slowly. Too wide. Too wrong. And when she spoke, it wasn't her voice. He chooses for us. My knees buckled. No, no, that's not. The guard shoved me back, swinging his machete at the shadow. Don't look at them, he backed. They are not the ones you knew. The hungry ones wear their faces. The figure melted into the wall like smoke. Auntie Titi pulled me up again, forcing my legs to move. Chima, if you stop now, we die here. Move. We staggered forward. The tunnel stretched on, narrowing until we had to crouch. The torch spat weakly, the flame shrinking. Then the sound changed. No longer taps. Now it was footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Coming from behind. Uncle K's voice slid through the catacombs, smooth as oil. Running only makes the meat sweeter. The fear makes it tender. That is why I choose carefully. The guard stopped, panting, sweat dripping down his lined face. He turned to us, whispering fast. There is a chamber ahead. If we can reach it, there is a second exit. But we must be ready. What waits there is worse than him. Boom. The ground shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. He was coming closer. We stumbled into the chamber, a wide hollow beneath the church. At its center stood a stone table, blackened with old stains. Chains dangled from the sides. Around it, dozens of bones piled high, some gnawed, some still fresh. On the far wall, a crude carving. Dozens of faces with mouths open wide, teeth sharp, eyes hollow. The torchlight flickered across them. And then one of the mouths on the wall moved. It whispered. Hungry. The torch sputtered as we stood in the chamber, the walls alive with faces carved in stone, their mouths open in eternal hunger. My skin prickled. It felt like those hollow eyes were watching me, waiting. The guard's voice dropped low, almost a whisper meant for prayers. This is where he does it. Where he feeds them. Feeds who? I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. The hungry ones, the guard said. Spirits of famine, born in the days when this land starved. People once prayed to them for food. Some gave goats, some gave cattle. But one man, long ago, gave them his own child. And they feasted. They have never left. They always hunger. His torchlight passed over the stone table. Its surface was black and sticky, layered with years of stains. Chains dangled, rusted but strong. Beside it lay bowls filled with dried herbs, bones ground into powder, and red cloth stiff with old blood. Auntie Titi's face was pale. And K. He is their priest, the guard said bitterly. Their butcher. He doesn't just kill, he chooses. The hungry ones don't want anyone. They want the young. The tender. The ones who still believe in life. His eyes slid to me. That is why he watches the children so closely. I swallowed hard, Tara's laugh ringing in my memory. She was chosen. She had no chance. The guard continued, his voice trembling. The ritual is always the same. He brings the victim here, binds them to this table, and cuts them alive. The first slice is never for himself. It is placed on the altar, burned in the brazier, the smoke rising to feed the spirits. The rest, he shares with the crowd, hiding it in the Suya. That is why people keep coming back, even when they whisper suspicions. The spirits make the meat sweet. Addictive. I staggered back, bile rushing to my throat. He makes us eat them. Yes, the guard said grimly. That is his covenant. That is why he can walk in the open and never be caught. We all eat with him. We are all bound. Auntie Titi's hand flew to her mouth. She gagged, her eyes burning with tears. Oh God, we've been eating our own. The torch flickered. Tap, tap, tap. This time, the sound came from the chains on the table. They rattled on their own, clinking softly, as if something invisible tugged at them. Then a voice, not uncle's, not the guards, not even the spirits carved in stone. A voice that seemed to come from the very walls. Feed us. The guard fell to his knees, clutching his machete like a cross. They know you are here, boy, he whispered. They can smell you. He has marked you. Marked me. The bracelet burned in my pocket, the letters shifting again. I pulled it out. It no longer said terror. It no longer said meat. Now it said, Chima. The torches dimmed. The chamber trembled. And from the far corner, shadows began to gather, rising, shaping themselves into figures with wide mouths and empty eyes. They were waiting. Waiting for him to bring me to the table. Waiting for me to be chosen. The chamber quaked as the shadows thickened, the carved mouths on the wall stretching wider, whispering in one voice. Feed us. Feed us. I stumbled back, clutching the bracelet that now bore my own name. My heart hammered so hard it hurt. Then the church above groaned like a wounded beast. Footsteps thundered, heavy and certain, until dust rained from the ceiling. The trapdoor we had shut burst open with a violent crack. And he dropped in. Uncle K. He didn't stumble. He didn't fall. He landed on his feet, knife gleaming in one hand, a fresh skewer in the other, as if the catacombs were nothing more than another night at his store. His red cap was tilted, his apron smeared with stains that were not sauce. His smile spread, calm and cruel. The table is set already. The shadows in the corners hissed like snakes. The chains rattled on the stone altar, eager. Auntie Titi shoved me behind her. Stay back, she shouted, her voice fierce though it shook. Uncle K only chuckled. Why hide him? He is chosen. The hungry ones already know his name. He pointed the knife at me, and I felt the bracelet burn hotter, almost fusing into my skin. The guard stepped forward, machete raised, torchlight flickering over his weathered face. You will not have this one, K. Not tonight. Uncle's eyes slid to him. For the first time, his smile faded a little. Old man, you should not stand between hunger and its feast. You know what happens to those who refuse the ritual. The guard's hands shook, but his voice did not. Better to die fighting than lie feeding you devils. Uncle's laugh echoed off the stone walls, making the shadows dance. He twirled the knife in his hand like a toy. So brave. So foolish. But I will give you a gift. The boy is tender, yes, but an old man's bones, when boiled, make a fine broth. With that, he lunged. Steel clashed, machete against knife. Sparks flew in the torchlight. The chamber filled with the clash of metal and the snarling of shadows. Auntie Titi grabbed my arm, dragging me toward the far tunnel. Move, Chima. Now. But I couldn't tear my eyes away. Uncle fought with speed that didn't belong to a man. His blade flashed, his movements sharp and sure. The guard swung desperately, every strike fueled by fear and fate, but Uncle's smile never faltered. The hungry ones cheered, their whispers rising into a chorus. Cut him. Bleed him. Feed us. Then, with a swift strike, Uncle knocked the machete from the guard's hand. It clattered across the floor, far from reach. The old man staggered back, torch trembling in his grip. Uncle pressed the knife to his throat, pinning him against the altar. Not him. I screamed before I even knew the words were leaving my mouth. My voice cracked, desperate. Take me. Isn't it me you want? The shadows hissed louder, their mouths opening wider. Uncle turned his head slowly, his smile stretching as he looked at me. Yes, boy. Yes. You understand. He pressed the knife harder against the guard's neck. The torch shook, casting the chamber into wild, shifting light. Step forward, Uncle said, his voice silk and still. Lay yourself on the altar, and I will let this old bone live. The guard's eyes met mine, wide, fierce, pleading. No. Don't listen. Run, boy. The bracelet seared into my palm. The whispers grew louder, pounding in my skull. Feed us. Feed us. Feed us. And in that moment, I took a step toward the altar. My foot hit the cold stone floor with a sound that echoed too loud. The chamber seemed to hold its breath. Every carved mouth on the wall leaned toward me. Every shadow trembled with hunger. Uncle K's smile widened, showing teeth too white for a man who handled so much blood. Yes, he purred, come to me, Chima. Come and lie down. The hungry ones have waited for you. The guard struggled against the knife at his throat. His voice cracked as he shouted, No, boy. Don't give yourself. You'll be lost. But the whispers drowned him out. Feed us, feed us, feed us. The bracelet burned hotter, letters glowing faintly. I looked down, now it didn't spell terror, or meat, or Chima. It spelled OURS. My chest tightened. My legs kept moving, even though my heart screamed to stop. It was like invisible strings were pulling me closer to the altar. Auntie Titi suddenly shoved herself in front of me, spreading her arms wide. No. If you want him, you'll have to take me too. Uncle tilted his head, amused. A brave woman. But your flesh is bitter. Sour with worry and age. The spirits want the boy. Not you. The shadows hissed in agreement. The chains rattled louder. The stone table seemed to pulse like a living thing, waiting for me to lie upon it. Then Uncle did something that froze my blood. He lifted his other hand, the one holding the skewer, and raised it high like a priest offering a sacrifice. On the stick was a small, bloody piece of meat, half-cooked, dripping. He held it to the faces on the wall. Take and eat, he whispered. The shadows surged, mouths opening wide, teeth glistening in the dark. A low growl rose from the chamber itself as if the walls were alive. The meat vanished from the skewer, devoured by invisible jaws. The air thickened with the smell of roasted flesh and something fouler, like graves left open too long. The stone table shook. Chains clattered like bells. The faces carved in the wall whispered in unison. More. 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 Uncle's eyes gleamed. He turned back to me, knife flashing. Now, boy. Now you take your place. One cut, and you will belong to them forever. The guard struggled, blood dripping where the blade pressed his throat. Chima. Listen to me. There is another way. But before he could finish, Uncle shoved him hard. The old man fell to the floor, torch rolling from his hand, firelight spilling wild shadows across the chamber. Uncle reached for me, knife raised, his hand cold as iron as it clamped around my arm. Lie down, he hissed. Lie down and feed them. The bracelet burned until smoke curled from my palm. The whispers grew deafening. The stone table seemed to pull me forward with invisible force. I fought, kicking, screaming, but his grip was too strong. He dragged me closer, closer, until my back touched the cold surface of the altar. The chains slithered like snakes, wrapping around my wrist on their own. The hungry ones howled. The chamber shook. Uncle raised the knife above me. His smile stretched wider than ever. Tonight, he whispered, you are Suya. The blade fell. And in that moment, the torch on the floor flared bright, brighter than any flame should. It lit up the chamber like day, revealing the truth of the shadows, the real faces of the hungry ones. I saw them. And what I saw made me scream. The torch exploded with light, blazing brighter than it had any right to. Its fire leapt across the walls, burning the shadows away. For the first time, I saw the hungry ones, not as whispers, not as carved mouths, but as they truly were. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. They peeled themselves from the walls like wet paper, sliding into the chamber. Their bodies were thin, almost skeletal, but their bellies bulged, swollen and sagging as if stuffed with meat. Their mouths stretched ear to ear, crammed with rows of jagged teeth. Their eyes were nothing but hollow sockets, yet I felt them staring straight at me. And worst of all, their faces. They were the faces of the missing. I saw Zainab, whose poster hung on the tailor's shop wall. Her eyes were empty, her smile cracked too wide, blood dripping from her chin. I saw the boy who vanished 2 weeks ago, his mouth stretching open like a wound. And Tara, my Tara, stood among them, her silver bracelet gleaming on her too-thin wrist, her head cocked at an unnatural angle. Chima, she whispered, her voice broken into 3 layers. It's soft. Come eat with us. My scream ripped through the chamber. No. Uncle K's knife hovered above me, his face twisted in rage at the sudden flare of light. The shadows recoiled, hissing. The chains on my wrist loosened, just slightly, as if the torchlight burned them too. Fools. Uncle roared, his voice shaking the stones. You dare show yourselves before the sacrifice is complete. The hungry ones hissed back, their mouths snapping hungrily. More. More. Feed us. For the first time, Uncle's smile faltered. His grip on me tightened as he fought against the pull of his own masters. Wait, he shouted at them. Not yet. He must bleed first, he must be caught alive. The torch flickered, sputtering. The light dimmed. The shadows surged forward again. Chima. Auntie Titi's voice pierced through the chaos. She had the guard's fallen machete in her hands, gripping it with both arms. Move. With all my strength, I twisted. The chain slipped just enough, and I rolled off the altar. Uncle's knife slashed down, missing my chest by inches, striking the stone with a sharp clang. Sparks flew. Auntie Titi swung the machete, the blade catching Uncle across the shoulder. He staggered back, his apron tearing, blood spraying dark in the torchlight. For the first time, he screamed, not in pain, but in fury. You dare, he bellowed, his voice echoing with something more than human. The hungry ones shrieked, their voices splitting the air like glass breaking. They lunged forward, not caring for rituals anymore, their mouths snapping, Drew sizzling where it hit the stone. The guard crawled to his feet, blood running down his neck, and snatched up the torch before it died completely. Run, boy. Run. But the chamber shook, dust raining from the ceiling, and the hungry ones closed in from every side. Their mouths opened wider, their hollow eyes burning with hunger. Uncle K raised his knife high again, blood dripping down his arm. His smile was back, stretched wide, his voice booming above the chaos. You cannot run, Chima. You cannot hide. You are already ours. The hungry ones lunged. And the torch went out. The torch died with a hiss, and the chamber collapsed into blackness so heavy it pressed against my skin. I couldn't see the walls, the altar, not even my own hands. The darkness wasn't empty, it was alive. The whispers grew louder, circling me. Feed. 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 Then, something cold brushed my cheek. Fingers. Long, thin, clammy fingers. I jerked back, but another hand slid across my arm, then another across my ankle. The hungry ones were all around me, touching, grabbing, tasting. Chima, Tara's voice came again, closer this time, right beside my ear. Don't fight. Just lie still. It doesn't hurt if you don't fight. Her breath was cold. Too cold. No. I shouted, thrashing, my arms swinging wildly. My hand struck something soft and sleek, it moaned like a child, then hissed like a beast. Somewhere to my left, I heard the guard's voice. Boy. Listen to me. They can't kill you in the dark unless you let them. Don't answer their calls. But it was hard. The voices weren't just whispers anymore, they were in my head, digging deep. I saw flashes behind my eyes, visions not my own. I saw children tied to the altar, crying, begging. I saw Uncle K slicing them open, piece by piece, his face calm, his apron wet. I saw him feeding the first bite to the shadows, bowing low as the smoke carried their laughter. And worst of all, I saw myself. Lying on the altar. Bleeding. The crowd outside laughing, chewing, smacking their lips as they ate me in little peppered strips. I screamed until my throat burned. The darkness tightened. Something wrapped around my neck, chains, moving on their own, squeezing. My legs kicked, but the floor had turned soft, like flesh. It paused beneath me, throbbing with every heartbeat. Then, through the chaos, I heard Auntie Titi's voice. Fierce. Sharp. Alive. Chima. It's not real unless you believe it. I gasped, struggling to focus. What do you mean? Her voice echoed, moving through the dark. They feed on fear. They feed on the mind before the flesh. If you stop believing their lies, they lose power. The hungry ones shrieked at her words, their whispers breaking into snarls. The chains around my neck tightened, desperate, but I gritted my teeth. This is not real, I whispered. My voice shook. This is not real. The ground pulsed harder, fighting me. The visions returned, me caught, me chewed, me swallowed. But I forced the words out louder. This is not real. Something snapped. The chains loosened. The cold hands slid away. The hungry ones screamed, 100 voices crying out in rage. The darkness itself shuddered. Then, a sudden flare, fire burst back to life. The guard had relit the torch with trembling hands. Its light stabbed the black, and the shadows shrank back, hissing, their bodies curling into the walls again. But not all of them. Terra remained. She stood in the torchlight, her bracelet gleaming, her hollow eyes locked on mine. You can't save me, she whispered. You can only join me. Behind her, Uncle K stepped forward, knife dripping, his smile stretched wide. She is right, boy. You are already one of us. He lunged. The torchlight wavered, throwing Uncle K's shadow long and monstrous across the walls. His knife gleamed wet, and his steps echoed like thunder in the hollow chamber. Terra stood beside him, her face pale, her eyes empty, her mouth trembling with words that weren't hers. Join us, she whispered, tilting her head, bracelet clinking as if mocking me. It's softer if you don't fight. Stay back. Auntie Titi raised the machete with both hands, her knuckles white. She stepped in front of me, shaking but unyielding. You not take this, boy. Uncle K only laughed, a sound too deep, too sharp. Bravery doesn't change destiny. He flicked his wrist, and the knife spun in a circle, catching the torchlight. The boy is chosen. He smells of fear, and the spirits have marked him. Can't you hear them call his name? The walls answered. Cheer. 100 mouths stretching, chanting, begging. I pressed my hands over my ears, but the sound was inside me, buzzing in my bones. The guard staggered forward, torch in one hand, blood trailing down his neck. K. His voice cracked like firewood breaking. This ends here. He thrust the torch toward Uncle. For a split second, the hungry ones recoiled, hissing, shrinking back into the cracks. Their hunger shrilled, louder, desperate. But Uncle did not move. He stood still, smiling calmly, the knife steady in his hand. Then, with a sudden slash, he cut across his own palm. Blood welled up, hot and dark, dripping onto the floor. The chamber shook. The hungry ones howled. The stone table rattled. Chains sprang to life, clinking and twisting like snakes. Uncle raised his bleeding hand. Drink, he whispered. The shadows surged, lapping at his blood. Their whispers grew feverish. Feed us. Feed us. Terra's hollow eyes flicked to me, then to the bracelet. Slowly, she lifted her arm, pointing at me with a trembling finger. Him, she whispered. Take him. The chains obeyed. They snapped from the altar, slithering across the floor toward me. Cold metal wrapped around my ankles, pulling me down. I kicked, screamed, clawed, but they dragged me inch by inch toward the stone table. No. Auntie Titi swung the machete down hard, slicing through one chain. Sparks flew. The broken end writhed like a severed snake, but two more wrapped around my arms, yanking me off my feet. The guard thrust the torch forward again, pressing it against the altar. The stone hissed, cracks glowing faintly red. The hungry ones screamed, their faces warping in pain. For a moment, the chains loosened. But Uncle moved too fast. His knife flashed, knocking the torch from the old man's grip. It clattered to the ground, rolling away, flame dimming. Darkness crept back in. The guard collapsed, clutching his chest. His breath rattled, weak. Finish him, he gasped, eyes on me. Only fire breaks the bond. Uncle K stepped onto the altar, his blood dripping, his smile wide. He lifted the knife high above me. It is time, he whispered. Time to make you Suya. The hungry ones roared in hunger. The chains pulled tighter. And Terra, her hollow eyes softened, just for a second. A tear slid down her pale cheek. Run, Chima, she whispered. Run. Then her face snapped back, the spirits twisting her mouth into a jagged smile. Uncle's knife fell. The knife plunged down. I rolled, the blade slashing stone where my chest had been. Sparks flew. Chains tightened, dragging me back toward the altar. Stay still. Uncle K snarled, his cum mask cracking for the first time. The cut must be clean. The hungry ones howled, their mouths stretching wider, teeth clacking like iron. Tara's face flickered in and out, one moment my laughing friend, the next a hollow mask with hunger burning in her eyes. Auntie Titi lunged, swinging the machete. Uncle caught her wrist midair, twisting until she cried out. The blade clattered to the ground. He kicked it aside and shoved her against the wall. She slid down, gasping for breath, her eyes blazing with helpless rage. The guard crawled weakly toward the fallen torch, but his strength was failing, his body shaking. His voice was thin, barely a whisper, the fire. Chima, the fire. The chains dragged me back onto the altar, pinning me down. Cold metal coiled across my chest, my arms, my legs. The stone paused beneath me, hot and alive. Uncle raised the knife again, blood dripping down his arm, falling onto my face. His smile stretched too wide. This is your last breath as flesh, he hissed. Your next as meat. Something snapped inside me. Fear burned into anger. My eyes darted to the torch, rolling on the floor, flame sputtering low. I lunged sideways, straining against the chains until they cut into my skin. Pain shot through me, but I didn't stop. My fingertips brushed the torch handle. Uncle's knife slashed down. I grabbed the torch and thrust it upward. The fire kissed his face. He screamed. For the first time, he screamed in pain. His smile tore open into a howl, his skin blistering where the flame licked. The hungry ones shrieked, writhing, their bodies peeling back from the walls, their mouths dripping black smoke. The chains recoiled, slithering away from me like snakes burned by heat. I scrambled to my feet, torch in hand, fire blazing. Uncle staggered, one side of his face charred, his red cap falling into the dirt. His cum was gone. His voice was raw, furious. Fool, he bellowed, his knife dripping black blood now instead of red. Do you think fire can kill me? I am their priest. I am their butcher. The hungry ones screeched behind him, their chant broken, wild. Feed us. Feed us. Feed us. I raised the torch high, the fire flaring brighter, hotter, as if it knew what it had to do. My voice tore from my throat, hoarse but fierce. Then burn with them. I held the torch onto the stone table. The altar erupted. Flames exploded across its surface, racing into the cracks, climbing the chains, licking the walls. The carved faces shrieked as fire poured from their mouths. The hungry ones writhed, their bodies curling, twisting, melting into ash. The chamber shook, dust raining like hail. Uncle K roared, his knife raised, charging through the fire. His body burned, his apron catching flame, but still he came. He lunged at me, blade aimed at my chest. And Tara stepped between us. Her hollow eyes flickered, soft again, human again. For a moment, she was my friend, my Tara, smiling through tears. Not him, she whispered. Uncle froze. His knife trembled in the air. Move, girl, he roared. You are mine. But she shook her head slowly, bracelet clinking. Not anymore. She reached for my hand. The fire wrapped around us, not burning but warm, alive. The chamber screamed as the hungry ones dissolved into smoke. Uncle's howl rose above them all, echoing like thunder. Then silence. When the fire cleared, the stone table was split in two. The chains were melted. The walls were cracked, their carved faces gone. And Uncle K was nowhere to be seen. Only his knife remained, glowing faintly on the floor. Tara's hand slipped from mine. She gave me one last smile, soft and tired. Then she faded, her body breaking into ash, carried away by the fire. Tara. I cried, reaching out, but she was gone. The chamber groaned. Stones rumbled, falling from above. The whole place was collapsing. Out. Auntie Titi shouted, grabbing my arm. The guard pulled himself up, coughing, pointing toward the far tunnel. We ran, stumbling, the ground crumbling beneath us, the air filled with smoke and falling stone. Behind us, the chamber fell into darkness forever. But as I stumbled into the night air outside the church, gasping for breath, I realized something. The bracelet was still in my hand. And it no longer bore letters. It was blank. We burst out of the tunnel just as the earth behind us groaned and swallowed the church catacombs whole. The night air was cold, sharp in my lungs. I collapsed onto the ground, coughing, the bracelet clutched so tight in my hand it cut into my skin. Auntie Titi dropped beside me, her face streaked with soot and sweat, eyes blazing with relief. The guard leaned against the wall, chest heaving, blood drying dark on his neck. We were alive. Somehow, we had survived. But the night was too quiet. No dogs barking. No crickets singing. Not even the wind moved through the trees. Then I heard it. A slow clap. 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 We froze. From the smoke rising behind the broken church ruins, a figure stepped forward. His apron was gone, his cap burned away, his face blackened and blistered. But his eyes still gleamed calm and steady. Uncle K. And he was smiling. You think fire can end hunger? He rasped, his voice cracked but still sharp. Hunger never dies. It only passes. He lifted his hand, and to my horror, his knife was still there, whole, shining, unburned. Its blade glowed faintly, dripping black liquid that hissed when it touched the earth. Look at yourself, Chima, he said, his voice carrying in the silence. You already carry it. You saw the visions. You tasted the whispers. The altar accepted you, even if you refused the cut. Why do you think the bracelet is blank? Because you are the next to write it. I stared at the silver band in my palm. It was true, its beads were empty now, waiting. My heart slammed against my ribs. No, I whispered, shaking my head. No, I'm not like you. Uncle's burnt lips curled. But you will be. They will whisper to you. They will gnaw at you when you sleep. You will crave it. And when the day comes, you will pick up a knife, and you will understand. Hunger cannot be buried. Hunger must be fed. Auntie Titi raised the machete again, though her arms trembled. You'll never have him, she hissed. The guard lit the last of his torch, the flame tiny but stubborn. Back, butcher, he croaked, though his strength was nearly gone. Uncle only laughed. You fight shadows with fire and blades, but hunger is already inside him. That is my victory. His eyes locked on mine. Calm. Patient. Certain. Tell me, Chima, don't you feel it? The craving. The softness. And then I did. A shiver ran through me, deep, sharp, terrifying. For just a heartbeat, I remembered the taste of suya from his stand, the way the pepper stung, the way the meat melted. My mouth watered. My stomach tightened with need. I dropped the bracelet like it was burning me. My chest heaved, horror flooding in. No. I screamed, pressing my hands over my ears. I won't. I'm not you. Uncle's smile widened, his eyes burning brighter. You already are. Before Auntie Titi or the guard could move, he raised the knife high. The air shimmered, shadows twisting around him. His voice roared through the night like thunder. Hunger never ends. The knife came down. But whether it struck me, or whether something else rose in that moment, I cannot tell. Because the world went black. And the last thing I felt was not fear. It was hunger.